Welcome back to the Now Morning Show. It's a special show. We are celebrating World Sleep Day. And joining us in studio this morning is Dr. Paula Robertson, a pediatrician who's going to share with us ways to help children get the sleep that they need. Good morning, doctor.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you on the show this morning.
Loving the set.
Loving the set. And as you were just saying, this is something that actually can encourage feeling a little bit sleepy, because I've definitely been yawning quite a bit.
Yeah, you got all the coziness going on here, so totally get it.
So share with us, I mean, before we get into with the children, the sleep they need, you mentioned something offset a little bit earlier, talking about sleep hygiene and why it's important.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite terms to use. You know, coming out of the COVID pandemic, we found that a lot of young people and adults, I gotta say, had really disrupted sleep patterns. Things like online school, screen time, threw everybody off. So I usually introduce the concept of actually healthy sleep habits, aka sleep hygiene. And I really got this from a sleep specialist called Dr. Michael Bruce in the US. And he talks about 5 key things you need for a good night's sleep. The first is to always have a set bedtime. So you know what I started doing? Most of us set an alarm to wake up in the morning. But in fact, what we recommend now is setting an alarm an hour before bedtime to remind you to get ready for sleep.
Interesting.
Yeah, no. The other is to switch your devices off. I know we're all addicted to them, but switch your devices off an hour before bedtime. We know from science that the blue light that they emit interferes with sleep and really messes up your body's sleep-wake schedule. In particular, it tricks your brain into thinking it's daytime and triggers you with lots of dopamine hits. So you got to manage your tech around sleep as well. If you drink coffee, you got to stop that at about 2 p.m. because it takes about roughly 6 to 8 hours for caffeine to metabolize out of your system.
Oh my goodness.
I know, even us hardcore coffee drinkers like myself. So I'd say try and keep that in the morning if you need to. Alcohol as well also has an effect on sleep, not so much for teens, but for adults. And so really being careful about how you manage alcohol. Don't drink to try and get you to fall asleep. It messes up your sleep architecture. So really what we'll normally say is look at the number of glasses of alcohol or wine you're having. And for example, try and stop that ideally at about 3 p.m. Yeah, to really help your restful sleep. I know.
3 p.m.
I know,
I know a lot of people just heard that and went, what? Yeah. So you just mentioned, of course, teens and children, which we're talking about this morning, and the effect of the COVID-19 pandemic and the many lifestyle changes and how it would affected their sleep. What about now with us going back out to work? We see, of course, children being taken to school by their parents and maybe up 3-4 hours before school starts, late into the night. How do these things affect children?
So what's interesting is that we know actually, again from a lot of international studies, that teens in particular need a lot more sleep than they currently get worldwide. The average teen needs about 9.25 hours sleep a night. The amount of sleep you need actually depends on your age. So for babies, for example, it's often as much as 18 to 22 hours a night or a day. For infants and young children, it's about 10 to 12 hours a day. And for teens, it's about 9-ish hours a day. And then adults, ideally, I know a lot, right? But ideally between 7 to 8. Right? And most of us get well below that. But what I have to tell a lot of teenagers is what tends to happen is our natural body clock tends to take us later in the day when we're teens. So some interesting studies are in the US now to suggest that actually teens naturally like to be awake later, but often rouse later in the morning as a result. So the US has recently started experimenting, starting school days a little later. We're not there yet. So we have to work in the system we're in, which means that if you know, count backwards. If you know you need to get up at 6 a.m. for school, I usually tell young people, count 9 hours backwards from that. I should be hearing you getting down, getting ready for sleep at about 9 p.m. And using that hour before bed to help your body to do that. Create the right sleep environment. Make sure your bedroom is just for sleeping. Keep it dark and cool. Manage the tech. Do not charge the devices in the bedroom at all. A lot of teenagers do that and have it right by the bedside with notifications on. So switch those off. Have a charging point that's outside. That hour before bed, I'd usually suggest teach your body to wind down. So the first 20 minutes, getting stuff ready for school, making sure your book bag's packed, you've done your homework. The next 20 minutes, getting you ready, having a bath, a shower, pajamas on. And the last 20 minutes, this is really important, getting stuff out of your head. Often the reason we're awake is we've got thoughts going on through our heads, basically, or just going over stuff that went on during the day. So this is a great time to do a gratitude list, doing some meditation, listen to music, read a book. Yeah, really just getting those thoughts out and preparing your body for sleep. It's so important. And the very last thing I'd say is when you get up in the morning, give the sun a high five. That's the last of the 5 things, which means open the windows, let the sunlight in, switch off that brain fog. It's the sunlight that switches off that melatonin, that sleepy hormone, and that actually helps us wake up more in the morning.
Wow, fascinating. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I love what you mentioned as well with, this small gratitude list or something to just wind down and propel you for the following day. Now, of course, as you know, we just gave away this amazing mattress thanks to Advanced Foam. How important would you say the mattress is for a good night's rest?
Well, I think your sleep environment generally is really important, and your mattress is part of that. So ideally, most people will tell you, try and look at changing your mattress about every 2 years. I am guilty of not doing that, but you want a supportive bed. So for some of us, that means a firm mattress. For others, something a little bit more soft. So the benefit of something like this is it molds to your body, for example. But your environment is also key. So use smells. Use things like chamomile, lavender, and so on. Gets our nervous system to relax, for instance. Mood lighting, avoiding LED lights, especially in your sleep environment, and ideally not even having your TV hardcore, right? Or computers in your room for sleep. They really tell you, bedroom ideally to just be for sleep and rest.
Just be for sleeping. Just one thing though, as we're speaking about technology, of course, we all have one of these, and as you were mentioning, we use them every day. And teenagers and adults, we charge it on our bedside at night. Now there's a feature, the blue light feature.
Yeah.
Is that a cheat code to not switching off an hour before?
Yeah, I think it tries to aim and tackle part of the issue, but not the whole issue.
Right.
So while blue light is part of the problem and a significant part of it, the other thing is actually what it's doing is triggering and stimulating us all the time. So when we're doing the idle scrolling, and I've done it, we're getting repeated dopamine hits. We're looking for repeated pleasure hits, basically, and that keeps us more and more awake. So although the blue light screen or the blue light glasses are the other question I get, mitigate the blue light effect, it's still a wider issue of how we use tech to stimulate us, and actually we need to have a healthy relationship with our tech.
Fully understood. Do you have any closing comments or anything we may have missed before we end today's conversation?
Well, I think this is a great initiative. I think it's important that we all have conversations about sleep. Lots of us are not getting enough of it. And if this inspires us to work on having better sleep hygiene, then that's all for it. I'm all for it.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Dr. Robertson, for being with us this morning on the Now Morning Show. Happy World Sleep Day.
Same to you as well.
And to all of you at home, happy World Sleep Day. We're still celebrating. We'll be back in a few moments on Now.